So I found this Chris Watts news, a little nugget of information, and I'll link the post on Reddit where I initially saw it. I've seen some articles about it after I looked it up, but I'll link the post on Reddit where I saw it first. Now I don't know if he or she who posted that, I don't know if they're the ones who discovered it, but I will link that post because that's where I first saw it. So I don't want to take credit for finding this, but let's talk about what it is. So Chris Watts loses his prison privileges because his underwear, some petroleum jelly, some lube, and other commissary items, hygiene items, etc. have been found in another man's cell during a search. And now, obviously, I've read some articles about it. I've already looked it up on Google. And of course, the headline is Chris Watts' underwear and lube are found in another man's cell. Obviously, that's the headline. Obviously, it's quite attention grabbing because it is obviously implying some sexual activity with the boxers and the lube. But I don't really imagine that there was any sexual activity going on between these two inmates. I would imagine that it was some form of exchange of goods for probably protection, if anything. Obviously, Chris Watts isn't a popular prisoner by any means. I've had tons of people tell me that he's not liked in prison, which makes sense. And then, of course, he was moved to the Dodge Correctional Institute in Wisconsin from, the jail in Colorado. Why? For his own protection. People were telling for him to commit suicide, telling him to kill himself, etc. So he was moved to Wisconsin for his own safety. So he's not a well-liked prisoner by any means. And of course, prison can be a very dangerous place. So anyone in prison is potentially at risk of getting harmed by another inmate. But Chris especially, because no one likes him because of the case and the publicity, etc. So let's take a look at this adult conduct report from the Dodge Correctional Institute that is on the screen now. So it reads that the inmate was named Dylan Tallman. That's whose cell the items were found in, and it says, during a search on 7/6/2020, so all the way back in July. That's when this was. Perhaps this contributed to Chris's call in August where he is again talking with his girlfriend at the time. I don't know if they're still together, and the private investigator, where he's saying how bad he wants out of prison, that he doesn't want to be there anymore, obviously understandable, but that he really wants out. So perhaps this loss of privileges from back in July affected his phone call, the reasoning behind why he wants out so bad. So let's read a little bit more. So again, Sergeant Pass and Sergeant Hilscher, conducted a cell search on Unit 11, Cell 13, that is assigned to, again, Dylan Tallman. The following contraband items were found in his room: dental floss, toothbrush holder, Colgate toothbrush, cup with lid, 4 pins, tube of Carmex, bar of soap, blue, bag of Q-tips, staff post-it notes, candy, cocoa butter lotion, and secret deodorant, skin cream, body powder, baby oil, petroleum jelly, there's the lube, shampoo, black Sharpie marker, a pair of boxer shorts, Fruit of the Loom brand, labeled with Inmate Watts Christopher name on them. Now, of course, all of those items are not given to prisoners. You have to buy them from the commissary. You do get, your basic hygiene needs, but if you're going to get anything nicer, anything that you might find in a store in the free world, those are things you're going to have to buy from commissary. And of course, many inmates in prison are from a lower income bracket, so they probably don't necessarily have families and friends sending them money, unlike Chris, who obviously his family is still very much in touch with them and they very much still support them. I'll probably get to that in another video. Obviously his mother is the crazy one, but that's a different story. But they're supporting him, sending him money. If you listen to the phone call way back when it all first happened back in 2018, they were telling him they were going to send him money, etc. So I would assume they're still doing that. And now he has this girlfriend, and she's probably sending him some money when she can. I don't know her financial situation, but I'm sure if she can afford to send Chris money, she is. So let's get back to reading this. So again, they had inmate Watts Christopher's name on them. I have attached evidence from WICS to the contraband bag that the only item that inmate Tallman has purchased since being transferred to DCI, again, Dodge Correctional Institute, on 7/8/2019 was regular magic cream shave on 8/12/2019, so almost a year before this is written. Inmate Tallman has repeatedly been told that there is no trading of any kind on the unit by both first and second shift unit staff. So they're telling him you can't trade at all. If you buy it, it's yours. You can't trade it. I'm sure if you had some chips or something, you could be like, hey, do you want some chips? And share that, or share a cup of coffee with someone, but there's no trading of items. We also found a psychological service request dated 7/1/2020 that was addressed to my psychological thoughts and love for you, Christopher. I'm gonna guess Krista, a woman probably on the outside. Inmate Tallman's psychologist is it's a psychologist is I can't read that last name, but her name is Christina, so that was addressed to her. The request states that he is lovesick for her, asked, will you be mine through thick and thin, great and rough, among other things. So it seems that he's fallen in love with this psychologist, which is pretty common, actually. But moving on 4/30/2020, contacted on 4/30/2020, Inmate Tallman received a conduct report for contraband for having canteen items in his cell that he did not purchase. Lieutenant, I don't know how to read that last name, so I'm not going to try, was contacted and advised on what was found. Inmate Tallman was put in temporary lockup status and escorted to restrictive housing unit when Unit 11 was returning from recreation. So they're returning from the yard. The PSU request is also in the contraband bag for evidence that was taken and secured in the security suite, along with all contraband items by the lieutenant. Also found was a pill that could not be identified by HSU Nurse Walsh that will be sent along in the contraband bag. Later in that day, inmate Watts Christopher, our good old boy Chris, was questioned by Sergeant Mueller and myself, since his boxer that were labeled with his name were found in inmate Tallman's room. Inmate Watts admitted to giving inmate Tallman his own personal books, hygiene products from canteen, toothbrush, jelly, shampoo, soap, coffee, and his own personal Fruit of the Loom boxers, which are probably a nice item. Again, they're probably quite expensive on the commissary. Of course, there's a markup on everything in the commissary. It's going to be much more expensive than if one of us went into a Walmart and bought it. So, again, if you don't have money, you're probably not going to be able to get that. Again, you could have a job in prison, but you're probably not going to be getting that much money from that job. Probably earning way, 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 way below minimum wage, but that's another topic for another day as well. But back to the document. Inmate Watts also admitted to calling inmate Tallman's mom, or Tallman, for him, and having Watts' parents message/call inmate Tallman's mom and girlfriend. Also, per DCI handbook, inmates are not allowed to make telephone calls for other inmates. Then they reference where it is in the handbook. Inmate Watts said that he was aware that he cannot give another inmate his property and did not have permission to give any items away in a report. So that was back in July. And again, the phone call where Chris is talking with his girlfriend and the PI, private investigator, where he's saying how much he wants out of prison, was in August of the same year, so like a month later. And if Chris loses his privilege, he's being punished for this, of course, because he broke the rules and he admits that. So perhaps that has been one of the factors in him wanting out of prison. So, maybe that's made him want out more than normal. That's, inspired him to go to the law library and work on his appeals more than he had been. So again, this inmate Tallman, this is for Tallman, Dylan Tallman. It says he was found guilty of unauthorized transfer of property, unauthorized forms of communication, and possession of contraband miscellaneous. So he's found guilty of all of this. So I would assume Chris is found guilty of the same things essentially, except maybe possession, because he didn't possess it, he transferred it. So I would assume that this would end with a loss of privileges. That's what it says on the Reddit post. I didn't read the articles fully, but I would assume that again he might have to go into temporary solitary, or he might lose potential privileges like going to the library or yard time, etc. I don't know exactly what the discipline, how they exactly discipline people for a violation like this. I don't know how severe of a violation they consider this at the Dodge Correctional Institute. I don't, obviously, I live in Ohio and I haven't been to prison, so I don't know how heavily that's punished. But again, I would assume that it absolutely is going to be punished because, again, it is a violation of code, at least a DCI. And now let's get to why. That's the big question: is why has Chris been giving this Dylan Tallman person, this other inmate, his things? His commissary items, which I'm sure obviously he paid for with his own commissary money. Excuse me, getting something to drink right there. But why has Chris been giving this Dylan Tallman person his items that, again, he paid for? And again, there's a big markup on this stuff in the commissary. So why has he been giving Dylan his stuff? And also making phone calls for the man. I would assume, obviously, again, that the headline is written as his boxers and lube are sent to this guy. Again, to imply that there's some kind of sexual activity, some kind of sexual relationship going on between the two. I don't know if that's what's actually going on. Again, but that's probably the implication in the headline because, again, that's pretty interesting and people are going to click on that. So, again, that's the implication with that. And I titled it the same way because I know that that's what's interesting people. But again, we don't know. We have no proof that that's what's going on. I would assume that Chris is probably trading these items for some sort of protection in prison because, again, Chris is not a popular inmate. Again, people don't really like him anywhere on the inside or the outside. So I would assume that he's been threatened to some degree. I don't know if he's ever been physically assaulted, but again, I would assume that he is not well liked, that he's probably been threatened. And again, they moved him to Wisconsin, to DCI, Dodge Correctional Institute, because he was being threatened and told to kill himself back in the jail in Colorado. So that's why he's in Wisconsin in the first place, is because people were threatening him. So I see no reason for these prisoners in Wisconsin to suddenly, be like, oh, Chris Watts, great guy, let's leave him alone, let him do his time, I don't think that's how that's going to go down. And again, it's not like people just in Colorado know about Chris Watts. Chris Watts is a huge case everywhere around the United States. Again, the Netflix documentary just came out 2 months ago, 2 years later. So again, people are still interested in it. I'm still talking about it. You clicked on this video, you're still watching about him. So again, everyone pretty much knows about Chris Watts, and I'm sure it was probably decently big news around the prison when he showed up. This guy who's on the national news is showing up. So I'm sure everyone's aware of who Chris Watts is, what he did, and why he's there. And again, I would assume that he's not, well liked. So I would imagine that one of two reasons is, again, there's a sexual relationship between the two of them, or maybe they're just really good buddies. Maybe Chris is just making tons of friends in prison. I don't know. Maybe Chris Watts is a really personable guy. He's just trying to help out this Dylan Tallman guy who can't afford this stuff. Maybe Chris is just a saint. I don't know. Of course, I'm sure someone will find out, and there'll be a post about that on Reddit, or there'll be an article about it, or a video on YouTube. Maybe someone with more inside knowledge of this prison will find out and will know exactly why he was doing it. But for now, we don't know. We could speculate, and that's pretty much all we can do. So again, I would assume there's a relationship between the two of them. Maybe they're just really good friends. I don't know. Or my best guess is that there's some form of exchange going on for protection of some sort, or at least, the guise of protection. I don't know if this guy would actually protect Chris, but maybe at least that makes Chris feel a little bit safer. I don't know. But again, I would imagine that this incident might be a reason that Chris has, wanted out of prison more than he usually does lately. So that's the adult conduct report from the Dodge Correctional Institute. Excuse me, yeah. And, I don't know how whoever found this got this. And again, it is from back in July, so almost 4 months ago. A little over 4 months ago. So again, it is kind of old. This is before the documentary came out. And again, Chris obviously knows about the documentary and he wasn't too happy about it. I wouldn't be either, but of course, I didn't murder my wife and kids. I'm not married and I don't have kids, so I didn't murder anyone again, though. So that's not an issue for me. But Chris, yeah, obviously he did not like the documentary. He's really at a low point, I would assume. Probably really wants out of prison with just this all this stuff going on currently right now. And again, I don't know. It's been 4 months, so I don't know if he is still, being punished for this. I don't know how long that lasts. Again, I don't know anything about the Dodge Correctional Institute in particular. I don't know how long a punishment would last for something like this. And again, I don't know how severe of a violation this is considered there. Obviously, it's not like Chris assaulted anyone or anything like that or stole anything. So I would assume that would be considered more severe. I would, if I had to guess, this is probably a less severe violation, of code. But again, it is a violation of the code of conduct or whatever for the inmates. And, I'm sure they were punished. Again, if those punishments are still ongoing, I don't know. Maybe Chris has gotten all his little privileges in prison back. But that is the code of conduct report for Chris Watts. And again, this was back in July. So thanks for watching. I hope you found this interesting. Again, I'll link the Reddit post and I'll link some articles that I found about this as well. And thank you for watching. Again, I hope you found this interesting. And until next time.